we wouldn't have this software without our users. I remember being told in school that you don't have the church without the people. You don't have like the community groups without the members. It's exactly the same.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the AMP podcast. I am Andrea Frisina, and some of you might already know me. I work in technical support, and I'm a trainer here in AMP. And I am joined today by two colleagues, Amy and Lucy. They work in AMP too, of course, in technical support when it comes to Lucy, and in technical support and training for Amy. Guys, hello. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Lucy, ladies first.
Oh, thank you, Emmy. Sure. I'm Lisa Cary-Shields, member of the support team mainly, but overall we're part of the hybrids team, which I think we discussed on some other podcast episodes if you want to check those out. But that means I'm here mainly Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday answering your technical questions and a bit of history. I was doing support back in 2018 when there was only two of us doing support, and I actually was based in Italy doing it, so sort of a bit of a veteran now, but also not, because we've evolved so much. My background, if you don't know already, I'm from law enforcement. Still do some sort of forensic stuff on a Thursday, Friday, but primarily digital forensics and not CCTV stuff. So I get to have fun with video on a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday from you guys. Emmy, what about you?
I'm Emmy Polito. I also technical support at AMP, although I don't do it anymore as much as I used to. I miss it quite a bit, actually. I get involved every now and then with some requests here and there, and also to help out. But also do, like Fritz said, I also do training. Like Martino, our boss, would like to say, I'm a bit of a jack of all trade, really. So I do a little bit of everything at AMP. As for my backgrounds, like Lucy, I also worked in law enforcement. I still do, to a certain extent. I do occasionally some casework for the police in the United Kingdom, where I'm based. And that actually helps me to understand our AMP products as best as possible, so I can offer the best support possible. And Lucy, in regards to your first spell as technical support in 2018, I remember, because I was at the other side. I was actually a user, and you were
really
amazing. Yes, sorted out an issue for us when the perspective stabilization filter just came out, and you helped us out with the case, and we were all like, how are we all not as good as Lucy? And so yeah.
And then you peeked behind the curtain and went, oh wait, okay.
Yeah, there was a team of people. I got a little bit jealous as well. I said, I want to be able to do that. So.
Oh, thank you. I can't remember. It's I was a bit younger back then, so
yeah. And I cannot forget it. I cannot get it out of my mind.
Oh, bless you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys, for your presentations, and thank you, Amy, for calling me Fritz. Fritz, for those of you who don't know, my nickname inside AMP. Everybody calls me Fritz here. So the goal of this podcast is to discuss a little bit our processes within the support group. And support for us is something very important, and hopefully the episode will be more challenging than a general support related podcast, because we want to cover, of course, the technical side, so the tickets and the problems that our users face, but also we would also like our conversation to be a little bit broader, and discuss also the many ways in which users have in the past and nowadays allow us to improve the software. So providing feature requests, giving tips about new usages of the software that we haven't thought about, etc., etc. So the first question for you guys is kind of general, and is what do you think technical support in a company like our AMP is? What it is about? And so I guess it's not just about answering emails and submitting tickets, right?
So Fritz, I would say for my personal experience, being both a customer in the old days, like I mentioned earlier, and now obviously being on the other side, is that we have a very direct and personal approach, which I think it's quite unique from what I've seen in my experience with other companies. So, in other words, like when you contact us, you're always going to have a name that you will recognize, from one way or another. You always know who you talk to, and you'll never get like one of those automated responses, that kind of tells you as a user, okay, here we go. So we're going to probably wait a while until we actually get to speak to someone. And this comes from our company, I say, being relatively small in the old days, and then allowing us to know a lot of our users, and still to these days we have a lot of users, but we pretty much know of them, or we know them personally, or we have trained them, and that allows us to have a very, very direct and personal approach, which I think users appreciate a lot. So I think that's what kind of like separates us from other companies in general. Whether that's a telecom company, we all been in conversation with telecom company where we don't even know who we're talking to, and if that person still exists in a second call, etc., etc. But also like companies doing forensics in general. And I think, that's something very special that we like to retain. Lucy, I don't know if you agree with me, but you're obviously a lot more involved these days, and
100%.
your name comes up a lot.
Emmy will be able to testify that when you're in forensics, you're already under pressure as it is. So if you've got a problem with a piece of software and you need to discuss it, you need to have that confidence and that trust, that it's that one, you're going to get an answer from a human being, a person that knows the product, that knows the issues that you're facing, and just takes that pressure off a little bit. It's one of the reasons I worked for AMPT in the first place, because of the customer support that I received when I was very much actively involved with video forensics in law enforcement. And I saw the response that I got and thought, wow, these guys are really good. That reputation you can't put a price on it. So it's super valuable, especially as Emmy said, in this day and age, and just with this line of work, super, super valuable, 100%.
I agree. And if I may also add, like, I think we are very good at communicating internally, so that we always up to speed. For example, when some of us are unavailable or go away, then the user is never faced with a situation where they've been dealing with Lucy in the past and now we're dealing with Kay, for example, and Kay doesn't have a clue of what's happened before. That never happens, because we are very good at talking ourselves internally, make sure we're up to speed when people are away. And I think, again, this comes from starting very small and retaining that kind of like almost like family values in a way when you're trying to help someone else.
Absolutely. Yeah. We're growing. We're still relatively small. If you look at, and maybe to give listeners or viewers a peek behind the scenes, we're still however many now, 40 odd people in the entire company.
Well, more than that. I think we're about 50 now, touching 60. There's people coming on all the time, and I'm kind of like losing track, like who's coming in. So,
but it's if you look at the likes of like big corporate companies, we are very, very small for the customer base that we have, and that has really driven our code of ethics. I think we've got a really good code of ethics that we live by, and just to have that small team, there's no that we only recently implemented a ticketing system. There's only about 4 or 5 of us doing support at any one time, and at the same time doing training and events and on the ground, with customers. So it's a very, very small team, and I hope that translates to how we support users as well.
Mm-hmm. Sure. Well, I trust it adds an added value to users, but I think is also enriching for us, because when I joined the company, I started doing technical support, and most of the users were just names for me, because I do not come from the forensic sector, so did not know anyone in the sector. But as soon as I started doing support, I started to see recurring names, and I started to know a little bit that those people I was interacting with. And then I started doing events and training, and I realized that many of the people I've helped in support, actually, I met them in person at events and training. And then when I went back to support, I was further motivated to do the best I could for them in support. So this personal, I think, component is quite strong within the support group. And as Lucy, as you said, even though the company is growing quite a bit, the support group is still a fairly compact, let's say, group of people. So we know each other very well. We interact very effectively with one another when one case is passed to another person. So it's very, I wouldn't say intimate, but it's a very personal, let's say, experience also for us. So that's definitely something important, I think, right? So regarding, let's delve a little bit more in depth into support itself before we move to something less ticket related. What would you say, Emmy? What would you say are the most important categories of requests we get in support in terms of type of help our users need?
I would say technical support at AMP is quite varied in general. Yes, there are requests like, for example, when we have to deal with licensing issues, which are also like the most urgent request, if you like, because obviously an issue with the license means effectively that user cannot use the software. So a paying customer not using a software is obviously something that we take very seriously and we deal with straight away. So you can go from anything like that, so to something, for example, like a problem that gets more to do with forensic workflows in general. For example, a CCTV format that is a little bit problematic, that doesn't play ball. Maybe it's partially supported on the software, but there are some errors or some inconsistencies. And actually, one of the things that I really enjoyed when I was doing support a little bit more was actually looking at videos that the users used to send us. By the way, we have a very direct way in which users can upload maybe non-evidential samples securely, so that we can have a look at the structure of problematic files. And we will have a go, either myself, Lucy, or anyone else who support. We are not developers, but we will try and see if we can maybe using 5 that has got some advancing decoding techniques. See if we can at least get it to show some frames that the user can use for enhancement, things like that. And then, of course, we will pass on to our format specialists to maybe look at implementing those formats on a more formal way in the software. And then my favorite is assisting users with casework, which brings it really back home for me, which obviously I do a lot of casework using 5 Authenticate mainly, but pretty much all of the AMP products. So, really trying to get a license plate or something out of a video for a users. Of course, we do this, and we make it clear we don't actually doing the work for users, but we would have a go and we would advise users on all the steps that they need to take to do that enhancement or whatever that they need to do. And as well as that, other requests, I would say, well, Lucy will probably think of a few more, but sometimes you get like a feature requests that are always very interesting, because we get a lot of I would say that the products, the development of the products is very much user driven in terms of what we get asked, because developers will, in general, I'm not just talking about our company, they will not necessarily use the software, especially forensic software.
Sure.
And that's why users are so important for us, and that's just a few. Lucy, I don't know if you can think of any other, but that's it's so varied. It's really exciting.
I mean, you covered a lot of it. We're going back to our original point. Like, we are user led. We're close knit user led. We couldn't create this software and the products that we make without user interaction, because and again, a peek behind the curtain, behind the scenes, we will have a feature and we'll discuss it in our meetings to the nth degree to try and foresee every possible limitation or outcome or use method or workflow that we can. But it's impossible for us to think about all of them. So if we have a user coming in and saying, oh, hang on, I do this in a certain way and I need it like this, that's so valuable, super helpful for us to hear different perspectives and different users from different organizations, agencies, disciplines. It's massively beneficial to us.
Sure, sure. And Lucy, also, we were talking about this the other day. It's something that is quite enriching, I would say, and interesting is that you get to interact with with people from very different, not only countries, but also different technical paths. So we get to interact with the Uber experts, but we also get to interact with the newbies who just started out, not only with the software, but with image processing and video processing in general. So how do you like that? How do you like this variety of type of people you interact with?
I personally love it. For me personally, being part of such a multi-diverse, multicultural company as it is, then to deal with people from all over the world has enriched my understanding of people in general and problem solving. I have to adapt my communication. Just to give credit to Andrea here, who's speaking in his non-native language, I have the fortunate position to be able to speak in my native language most of the time. So I'm constantly aware of, okay, I need to adapt my communication style here a bit. And I'm dealing with someone in a different industry that I'm not used to. So what's their specific needs? I can't treat every support case the same, and I can't treat every user the same. But I'm also weirdly mindful now of not speaking so robotically, so that people will think I'm an AI. That's a new existential crisis that's emerging for me. So it's fascinating. You talk about how in support we're not only helping our users to learn, but we learn. I learn every day. If I have a support case that's particularly complex, I will always notify the user, let me discuss this, or we're just taking a look at this. But there's a team of people that I will go to with massive amounts of experience that I go, guys, help, what is this? This is a crazy situation. What should we have this feature request? What's this format? So I'm learning all the time in various different ways and developing every day. So 100%. I don't know if you have anything to add to that, Emmy.
Yeah, no, I agree 100% with you. Like you touched on it, but for me also is the diversity of users that we get. And it's not just users of different nationality, because we give support to pretty much everyone in the world. Now, for those of you who might not be aware, we have a team of supporters for the US and Canada that deal with that part of the world, and then for people like myself and Lucy, and there's a few others of us, we take care pretty much all the rest of the world. So Africa, Asia, Europe. So we get to deal with a variety of different users. But also, as you mentioned, we learn the nuances of maybe how police forces operate in digital forensics in Scandinavia. How is that different from the UK or Italy? And we learn from it all the time. And then that then allows us to provide a better service all the time. And also, I totally agree with you that for us, the value that we get from a support request is immense, because we get loads of user support request, or just it might be a bug or something that maybe from a workflow point of view, it makes him scratch his head, and we sit down and we say, well, this is actually makes sense. We should be having a look at this and maybe change some of the stuff that not necessarily like tools or feature, but some of the things in the workflow, or Five or Authenticate, products like that will serve them better forensically. So for us, it allows us to discover new opportunity from a video forensic point of view all the time, which is invaluable.
And something I really like about our role is that we are a little bit like thieves, meaning that we are very in an excellent position to steal knowledge from not only from other departments but also from outside the company. So we learn a lot from users themselves, and better than I do that we have interacted with very, very knowledgeable users. I mean, really high level professional in format conversion or in image processing. There are these people also among our users, but also we are in the position to reach out internally to developers, to and each developer maybe has their own specific area of expertise, right? So we learn a lot also from other people inside the company. So from this viewpoint, I think this is it's kind of a pivotal role, because you learn a little bit about what other people inside the company do. You learn about the processes of the other departments, and you learn a ton also about the process and the workflows that our users typically have to go through in order to get what they want to get with our tools. So it's a good let's say intermediate area where everything crosses basically. So let's go into a little bit more detail, and this is maybe a bit of a difficult question. You don't have to provide like a definite answer for it. We have different types of users, right? And some users are, for example, as I said, extremely knowledgeable, really highly skilled individuals, and some other users maybe they've just started out, maybe they're not seniors professionally, and so I was wondering if we already know that we can learn a ton from the advanced users, right? But can we also learn from the beginners, let's say? Because it seems to me that somehow the viewpoint of the people who just started out with the software is somehow a fresh viewpoint. So they somehow are able to see things that don't really work properly, but we're so used to see them that we don't really even realize they are a bit off. What do you think about this?
Yeah, you pretty much answered that yourself, Fritz, and I agree with you. I find that sometimes I learn more from users that are, as you say, starting out, because it puts me in a situation that I haven't been in a long time, and it gives me the ability to see things from a different perspective, which is really, really helpful. I also find that type of interaction with users that are kind of like new to video forensics, but they want to learn, it puts me in a situation where I'm actually teaching while supporting as well. And of course, for me personally, like you said at the introduction, I also teach the AMP classes, and so that helps me really, really with my training classes as well. And from a personal point of view, I remember struggling in the past when I was explaining things to users, because I would expect them to already, or taking for granted that they would already know certain things. I would mention things like pixels or aspect ratio, and then thinking, well, that's granted, right? And they would look at me and they would say, I don't even know what that is. And now I'm, dealing with those type of users give me an ability to start from scratch and explain things and help out from a very, very basic perspective. On the other hand, from advanced users, we actually learn a lot, because they get to do a lot of work behind the scenes that we may not have the time at that moment in time to deal with, and therefore they are incredibly helpful. We have a few users in Germany that do a lot of work with decoding formats, because they have a great deal of experience in digital forensics and binary and things like that, and therefore the conversation with them is educational for sure, for us to be able to use that knowledge, like you say, steal in a way the knowledge that help us to help others as well. But actually comes to it, I don't think knowledge is knowledge is there to be shared anyway. So we always encourage that type of environment.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. And when it comes to the situations in which users make a mistake, so Lucy, what do you think? What kind of mistakes do you see most often users approaches to video? Let's say video enhancement. Let's keep this more specific. Video enhancement and restoration. Are there any common recurring mistakes users do?
I think the main one is acquisition and continuity. Those two aspects of video recovery can massively affect your output. So if it hasn't been acquired in the correct way, that will then affect your quality and then affect any enhancement or restoration you want to do. And then if you have acquired it correctly in the beginning, but then it hasn't been handled throughout the chain of custody, that's going to have an even further impact on your output. So if it's been copied or maybe captured on another device through a screen or something, very common, and just again goes back to that learning. Okay, this is why you would change that workflow. I mean, there's cases I've done as a very newbie sort of technician, CCTV technician. I wouldn't do some of the things I used to do now, and it's just educating that, but in a sort of approachable way, and saying, "Oh, I see why you would have done that, and I understand the pressures of, I don't know, it's 4 a.m. The officer just needs to capture the image, or the law enforcement agency just needs to capture it because X, Y, and Z reasons." And now we're at the enhancement stage, and this is where things have gone wrong. So that's maybe the most common mistake. I don't know if you've got, because Emmy, with your training experience, I don't know if you've got anything to add to that as well.
When you start talking about acquisition, like we were talking about exactly what you're talking about now in today's class, where I'm teaching a few people investigating video evidence.
Really?
And
wow.
we're talking about, like you said, acquisition being one of the things that nobody really takes that seriously. Everybody kind of takes for granted, but it's always the start of issues that you're not even going to know they're there until you get to the end where the case is in court. And then even when you realize that the video could have been acquired better, the evidence should have been better, etc., etc. So certainly agree with you. Other things I would also mention is, like the forensic workflow needs to be quite structured. And I always say with our products, especially with AMP5, it's not just buttons that you're pressing, but in your head, you got to have a strategy in what processes you use, what order you use them. And I always find that at the beginning, especially, users struggle with identifying the problems in the images that then allow them to pick the right process, pick the right filters in 5, and also the order in which they are being used. So yeah, I see repetitive issue caused. Some of the things that you notice more is like the same filter that gets applied multiple times, and not a streamlined workflow. And those are the things that we also teach in support. And that kind of like ties in with what I was saying before. We kind of like play a little bit of an educational role in support as well. And like you say, Lucy, when you were talking about acquisition, when we cannot help a user in support to get a license plate because there is simply not enough pixels or not enough information to work with, we then explain why we can't do that. The acquisition, how the video was acquired, how it was converted, all the problems that entails. So we always sweeten this can be done with the reasons why it can't be done forensically. And a lot of users appreciate that. They may have not got the license plates, but they now understand better the limitations and what they can achieve and then what they can't.
Right. And this brings me actually to a related topic, because I think a good part of what we do in support is to somehow teach or help understand our users to manage their expectations when it comes to their footage, to the footage they are dealing with, right? So quite often, especially unexperienced users, they come to us and they expect to restore, recover any type of detail just because they've applied the correct filter. But that's, of course, not the case. We know that very well. So in your experience, Lucy, is this a recurring thing? Do users reach out quite often with unrealistic expectations? And if so, what is your strategy to teach them a better approach, a more sensible approach in which they at least are able to draw the line between something that is not feasible and something that might be feasible?
100%. It's definitely recurring. We talk about the CSI effect, and being able to enhance reflections and things like this. We sort of have to, again, manage those expectations. I think it's not as common as it used to be, because we emphasize and promote our training a lot more, and a lot more people are taking that training and understanding, the limitations of the software, and that it vastly like goes down to the quality of the footage from the get-go and what detail and pixel definition is in there. So it's still a recurring problem, but users are generally open to learning and understanding the video evidence a bit better. Usually I'm a very sort of like, oh, I can see why you might think we might be able to get this, but this is it's compression, the lighting of the scene, the motion blur, etc. We just can't get the definition there. There's just not enough detail. I would say all the time they've been very understanding and gone, okay, I understand that now. And it goes back to that training methodology, workflows, understanding your evidence, understanding issues that are very, very common. And it's not just you. This is an industry-wide problem. It's something we're aware of. The CSI effect still lives on to this day, So yeah, 100%.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I would add to that, Lucy. It's to me, it's also like communication skills are very important when you provide support, and how assertive you are in explaining certain things or why certain things are working as they should do, or managing those expectations. It's very, very important in our role, and I think we take a great deal of care to responding in a way that the user can see that we have taken the case seriously. That is not just another case, that we take each case to heart and try to help as much as we can. And when we cannot manage those expectations technically, we try to do from a personal point of view. And that's always, again, is something that you can't take for granted, but that we value a lot, so yeah, I think we always try and trying to explain things in the best possible way, even if that's maybe not what the user was hoping to see. But I can count in my fingers the amount of times that the user was not satisfied with some of the support requests that we attended to.
Right. So it's definitely a learning opportunity for the users. But I would argue that it's also a learning opportunity for us, right? And this brings me somehow to the next question, because we know very well that you have the chance to learn a lot while doing technical support. And something that happened to me quite often, especially at the beginning of my career in Ant, is that I realized that I wasn't knowledgeable enough to properly answer a question from a user. Or maybe I wasn't even aware of that, but as soon as I started to try to explain something, I realized that I wasn't understanding the topic very well, because if I did, I probably would have been able to explain myself more clearly, right? So I don't know if this happened to you as well, but sometimes every now and then you are presented with a question which is maybe slightly more technical, or maybe from a different viewpoint of what you're used to, and that pushes you somehow to study a little bit, to ask colleagues, and to inform yourself about that matter. Does that happen to you?
To me, 100%. Like I'm not a technical person. I always feel like I've sort of like faked my way here, and you're all going to find out at some point,
You're also very modest, Lucy, though, to be fair.
Well, it's true,
You're being very British, Lucy.
It's well, of course. I struggle with mathematical concepts as well. So cases where I'm having to do, there was one particular case from a very, very experienced user. I shan't name who it is, but to do with the mathematics behind our GOP structure and frame analysis,
Right.
which leads into timing, presentation timestamps and that.
Mhm.
And my brain automatically just starts singing, I don't know, Italian songs or something, I switch off. And so those cases make me feel, oh, okay, goodness me, I don't know what I'm doing here. The beautiful thing about this company is I've never been alone with them, no matter the time of day, because we've mentioned briefly our heroic US and Canada support team, of which there are only a handful of. But even if it's 8 o'clock at night here in the UK, where I'm based, there is someone online in the world for AMPT that knows this stuff, that's had experience, that's worked in law enforcement in the US, So I'm very fortunate that I can say, oh my goodness, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm trying to answer a question from a very, very, very high profile user who is technically minded, and I'm trying to give them the best support. What do I do? And then it's almost like a team of people will gather around and go, okay, have you considered this? Here's a tool to try and look at this, put it into Five and use this. It's really, yeah, super, super valuable. It does feel like a family in a way. I know that's always a bit cliche to say, but for me, absolutely, I don't know about you, Emmy.
Yeah, I second that. I remember when I first started at AMT, sod's law, you just start doing a bit of technical support. You've been in the industry for a few years. You think you know it all, and straight away you get a couple of questions to do with single view metrology, or,
yes.
or it makes you think that there's always something more to learn. But I think one of the good things about a group of people, and a lot of us, like myself and Lucy, we also do or did casework. We are users ourselves, and Andrea is in the same situation. Is that we kind of understand, we kind of like know that we don't know it all, and we always got more to learn. And we are in a way, I'd say we are humble enough to be able to say, right, if I give an answer to this, I might not give an accurate answer, or I might not give a complete answer. So what I would do, I would start to have an internal conversation. Hey guys, I've had this request in support talking about single view metrology. I kind of know a little bit, but I'm not so sure about this aspect or that aspect. And then some of us that have a little bit more experience in the area would respond, or sometimes even a developer. We have a guy called Gabriele. He's an engineer, and his area of expertise is, three-dimensional algorithms or things like that. So he would actually come up with a response, and he has the ability to explain it in fairly lay terms that we can all understand. And in the process, I've learned something new, and then I am giving my users an accurate and complete response. So I think that's very valuable.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's always something at the forefront, let's say. Now, maybe we became very knowledgeable in some areas, but while we do support and are very good at those areas, our testers and developers are developing new stuff that we don't really know about yet. So a month from now, we will have to study those things and ask those people to bring us up to date with those things. Because again, as you guys said, it's a continuous process of learning, which is difficult, but it's also super fun. Honestly,
I agree. What makes it it is never the same. I always say there's a say in video forensics. I think in digital forensics in general, every case is different, and you always learn something new from each and every single case, because you had to research something you haven't occurred to that extent before. And you have the option then to learn it yourself, through all the resources that are available now in today's age, but also through the many colleagues and the networking of people, and that includes users as well, who can really help out. And then, so we are really like one big family. That we're all in this together, and I think that's another great core value of our company, is that we work with our users as well as for our users.
And the next question for you guys, that's mostly for you, Lucy, because you are the one among the three of us that does definitely the more support nowadays. I just wanted to give out some very technical, let's say, very basic technical information about how we handle cases in technical support in app, meaning that we tag each email. We have several different tags. And what would you say are the most important type of support tickets that we get? For example, bugs, etc. What are the main categories for us in terms of stuff that comes up in support?
Depends, really. In terms of importance, I don't really rate them in any sort of hierarchy for importance, but format requests,
okay,
we get quite a plethora of those. Super critical to making sure that our software is up to date and can support users who are coming across new and exciting formats all the time. The other issues we get are very not mundane. I would say mundane is the wrong word, but day-to-day licensing issues. We're dealing with forensics, so by very definition, computers have to be locked down. They have to be very strict security settings on some of our users' systems and servers and things. So that can end up being a bit of a nightmare, a bit of a minefield. We can't replicate those on our sort of humble laptops and things. So that can be a bit challenging. Obviously, we get casework on the horizon, and we're getting more and more of it, is authentication requests. So that's a bit of an emerging trend. A lot more questions. How do I determine if this video is authentic? Deepfake analysis, they're very, very hot topics I've noticed personally at the moment. But we still get the core sort of things are license issues, license requests, format support requests, and sometimes just generic questions about how the software works, workflow type scenarios, a few questions on dealing with large amounts of video, certain types of evidential situations. Those are the top of my head sort of answers. Emmy, I don't know if you've got anything further.
Okay, so as well as what you mentioned, which is all up, applies to my personal experience as well. I would say when we first roll out not a product, but a model that is quite on a larger scale, and then when it start getting used, we start noticing that we need to provide a little bit more bespoke solutions or bespoke changing to certain things. Then that becomes a massive project. It's not just a couple of back and forth emails. It becomes like a large scale support case where then the developers would get involved as well. And as an example of that, I think when we rolled out for the first time AMP Replay in an entire force network, in a very, very big consortium in the United Kingdom where myself and Lucy are based, we've never done anything like that before. And we had to deal with force network infrastructure, IT security of pretty high level, which we never had the opportunity to test because we don't simply have that infrastructure in house, and so we had to work with with not just with the user but with an entire IT department in the police force to be able to give them what they needed in order for up to 100 police officers to be using the software at the same time. I remember that was a massive project. What I liked is that they eventually developed from emails to actual a Zoom conversation, pretty much like the one we are doing right now. Okay, it's not Zoom, it's another platform, but the same kind of communication model where we would have the user, a member of IT department at the customer side, and we would have myself or Lucy or someone else or Andrea, and then like one of our developers or the head of our development team. And for me, that's is incredibly rewarding when that situation comes to a happy end. It may take some time, and it has taken some time, but it's come to a happy ending. And then that leaves us with now enough experience and knowledge to be able to roll out that model to, say, another big police force around the world. So, yeah.
And also, even in little things, this was, of course, a large project, and it was very helpful for us also to roll out Replay in other similar agencies and forces. But even the little things, for example, sometimes people don't really realize that every single bug ticket, every single feature request ticket, eventually we all put those together, and the aggregate, let's say, result of all those tickets, especially bugs and feature requests, somehow that can steer a little bit the direction in which we go when it comes to the evolution of the software tools we have, right? So we have recurring for example, feature requests that eventually might be implemented. I don't know, maybe a couple of months from now, maybe a year from now, but they are considered by the company in general, and they are considered because they go through technical support. So they are reported back inside. They are discussed in the so-called hybrids meeting, which is a weekly meeting that is held on every Monday in the forensics, let's say, team in the company. So users' feedback is also important when it doesn't really involve very large project, but when it's granular and maybe we have several different tickets pertaining to bugs and feature requests, right?
Absolutely. We've mentioned before that we wouldn't have this software without our users. I remember being told in school that you don't have the church without the people. You don't have the community groups without the members. It's exactly the same. Some of our biggest features, writing queue, batch processing, that they're as a result of direct communication with users and requests and users saying, look, it would be really great if I could do this, and it's super valuable. And those small sort of little requests that we add up, we collate, and then we put to the developers, shape our milestones and shape our roadmaps. We have huge discussions that the entire company gets involved, every year to see what's changed, what are people asking for now, what industry trends. We are absolutely user led, and we stick to that. I think it's part of our values, really. I don't know if you can add anything to that, Emmy, at all. But
yeah, I agree 100%. What the only thing I would add is that if you're a user watching on the other end and you're thinking, oh my god, I've suggested this thing 2 years ago and I haven't heard anything back. Please do not think that we have forgot about it. Okay, so every request that we receive, we discuss it internally. Now we looking at the value that can obviously add to your own workflow, you as in the person who has requested, but also to a lot of other users. Okay, so of course we have priorities that we have to assess, and sometimes it's neither mine or Lucy's or Andrea's decision to decide which comes first. Is someone, even some bigger fiction assets, if you like, in the company. But we always have democratic discussion, and every single feature request is logged somewhere in our system, and we will come to it at some point. There was a request that came a very long time ago about the ability of applying multiple filters consequentially to many different chains and doing so automatically. Okay, so further down the line, that has now become our priority, and that is something that is coming out. Can we say very soon? All right, and so so we discuss everything. We are user based, like Lucy said, and then eventually we'll get somewhere. And also, if we decide that maybe this feature request that comes, maybe is not so valuable for other users, we will tell you. We will tell you, okay, well, maybe we don't see the benefits of doing this feature request, because from a development point of view, it will take a lot of effort for something that not many people will use. But then we will always advise an alternative solution, mainly already using our products, because the solution or a shortcut might already be there for you to still be able to do what you want, but maybe not in the way you intended or desired, if you like.
Sure. And even I would say that even questions somehow have an effect, an impact in the company, because when we are faced with recurrent questions from maybe different agencies from different countries, maybe eventually those questions, they become webinars, or they become workshops or podcasts, right? So maybe they do not fit strictly into a technical support logic, but any kind of information that is provided by users to technical support eventually gets passed inside the company and gets somehow processed and become something else. For example, we might, and we have improved our training classes based also on the feedback of support, because maybe we realized in support that some topics, they did not seem to be well understood among users. And so we decided to maybe focus on those a little bit more during training. So any kind of feedback is somehow reprocessed within the company. And regarding feedback, one question for you, Amy, is the following. Is there a difference between the type of feedback in terms of feature requests, bugs, but also questions that we get in support, and the type of feedback we get during training or during events? Is there a difference in terms of the complexity of the issues, of the questions, etc.?
Okay, well, I can tell you that there certainly are a lot of similarities. Okay, so we may get like a feature request, like during training, doing events, and doing supports, and for sure we get some that are asked of us in many different types of communication. Okay, I find from a personal point of view that being able to physically be with a user, which is usually during an in-person training or with at a conference or a trade conference, maybe you get something out of users because it's more of an informal setting, and you get things like, I mean, these things always bother me in 5. I've never been able to do this and that, and then I will sit down with the user and explain, okay, well, maybe you can't do it this way, but you can do this other way that will get you there, nevertheless. Oh, I never knew about that. If I only knew about that before, it would have saved me a lot of time. So I think it gives an opportunity for people to be a little bit more outspoken than what you get like via an informal support. Now, we try to keep our support as informal as possible, but of course, for someone to get to a computer and email, it takes time to explain a problem and things like that. Sometimes you may get people that I'm not going to bother doing that. But maybe if I see Emmy or Lucy at a conference or at the AMT UK event that we're going to have this year for the first time, then I will ask them face to face. And then I might get the answer that I need. So yeah, I would say the main difference for me is not really the type of request; is more the medium that allows people to a little bit be more direct when they face to face. And we provide support face to face as well, because when we are out and about, we maybe we are for a trade conference or for an in-person training, but we still ear open to any problems that people may have and try and resolve them face to face.
Sure, absolutely. I noticed that, for example, during trainings, attendees are more inclined to mention little things that might be annoying, like not really bugs, but maybe strange behaviors of the software that do not compromise the workflow at all. But they are more inclined to mention that during training than in support, because, as you said, they need to write up an email. They need to. There's more work for them in doing that. Where in training they just mention that, and then we submit those directly. On the other hand,
what you're saying just makes me think that those are the things that make our products so special, because they're not necessarily, like you said, they might not necessarily be bugs, but they're just like a little innuendos or nuances that users find when they starting to get to know products like AMT5 and AMT Authenticate specifically a little bit better. And then they finally have all these little things that they would like to get better. They're not necessarily malfunctions of the software, just things that might improve the workflow from a forensic point of view. And those to me are the things that when we apply them, if we apply them, makes our products so special and so unique in the industry we're in.
Definitely, absolutely. The little things, yeah, we do want to hear about them for sure.
For sure.
And also sometimes there are big things, meaning that I don't know if that happened to you, Emmy, as well. But at a few events, I interacted with maybe one specific user who took the time to look where our booth was, and then came to me, and he or she had a very long list of features that they wanted implemented, and they have a very clear idea in mind of what the future evolution of that specific filter should be. So that is maybe some kind of feedback that you get from a very experienced user that, again, you don't get maybe in support. Sometimes you do, but sometimes
Sure.
you don't. Maybe, and you get that kind of feedback because they also want to have a chat in the meantime with us. So they stay at the booth for 40 minutes or something. We have a chat, and in the meantime, they also provide this feedback about whatever they want to see implemented in the software.
Totally. I mean, I have to be honest that it has never happened to me that I had a user come up with a list of 30 features and, we need this sorted out. But I certainly agree that people would know, we have AMP software coming to this conference. I want to ask them about this thing. I want to ask them about that. And that's what they usually come us to see us. That's why I said when we are at trade conferences, for example, yes, we're there to try and sell products and to get our brand known as much as possible. But we're also there to answer questions of our existing users. And actually, a lot of the things that I find myself doing at these type of events is telling them, we release a new version of 5. You know that we have now the ability to do video writing. What? I didn't know about that. When did you actually manage to do that? We've had that for 3 months. I haven't updated the software. So you missed out on this, you've missed out on this, you've missed out on that. So that in itself is support. I would say, because you you give the users the knowledge to now go and try new features that they may have not known about. And let's face it, and this is not just us, it's, users are incredibly busy. We have loads of resources online where people can go and have a look at new features and things like that. But we know that, people will struggle to find time to do those things. And quite rightly, when they are at home and they are not working, they want to do other things. We understand that. And that's why this type of events is the best opportunity to get together and talk about these kind of things that they might not know about.
Sure, absolutely. 100% agree with that. So I want to keep things very practical in the end. The first one is for you, Lucy. And as a technical support specialist, you've seen lots and lots of cases. So sometimes it happens that users want to ask for help, but they don't really know what's wrong, or they are not providing enough information. So what advice would you give to these, especially unexperienced user, to avoid the most common mistakes? And also, what should they do before even opening a support request with us? So is there a way they can find information for themselves before reaching out to us?
Absolutely. The blog. Our blog is a wealth of resources. All of our company, contribute to it in some way. So you've got that sort of hive mind contributing to all this knowledge in one place. We've even published papers on there. AMP Software does a lot of research, sort of in the background. That's where we'll generally put a lot of our news. I think we're even more videos. We're putting a lot more effort into videos on our YouTube channel. Places like LinkedIn, we're starting to interact with that even more because it's such a, most people are on LinkedIn. It's such a good sort of central location that we can advertise this stuff. But just check the blog, I still check the blog, there's stuff that I need to refresh on. Yeah, we read it every time there's a new update. It's such a valuable resource. There's the amount of knowledge on there is invaluable. And then if you can't find it on there, ask the question. There's no stupid questions. We don't have any, there's no questions that we think, that was stupid. I can't believe they asked that. We're like, that is super valid. Absolutely, we're here to help. Even if it's that you don't know where to begin, because I've been there and I always wanted someone to sort of guide me as to the starting steps. Right, how do I start with this? Oh my goodness, I've got 40, I don't know, MP4 videos, and
Mhm.
two of them work. I need timing from this one. How do I start in AMP 5? That is an absolutely valid question,
Absolutely.
and
Yes.
the majority of us, in fact, no, all of us would go out of our way to help with
Mhm.
anyone who was struggling. And I'm here with Emmy, who's literally training. You'd be the first person to go, yeah, of course. Reaching from your own experience and sitting down with people, just to try and get people started with very advanced workflows. Because I don't know about you guys, but I found myself as very inexperienced, thrown into situations that required experience and had to learn very quickly, on the job almost. So I know for a fact that some of our users are going to be in those exact same situations. So
Sure.
lean on us. I don't know if you want to add anything to that, Emmy, but
No, I definitely agree. I mean, the blog that you mentioned is certainly something that going back to Fritz's question about how to whip out users specific question that we already have answers out there somewhere. Well, we point them to those articles or to those resources because that's what they're there for. So we kind of like we would give a very simple answer. We say, well, look, but you want to find more about it. Go and have a look at this article. You want to find out a little bit about
Mhm.
compression and what are macro blocks. There's an article for that, and like you say, like the blog, the ant blog in time has become kind of like the bible of our of cumulative experiences from people like us who are in the industry that we're sharing with everybody else. And by the way, they're not necessarily product related. I mean, we've got an entire series of acquisition, which we mentioned about before, written by our colleague Spready. He was unfortunate enough to have to deal with his problems before anyone else even realized that they were there. And he's sharing all this information on our blog. You don't need to be an AMP user to learn about acquisition. But also, there's a lot of other stuff that you can learn. And yes, there are some articles that will teach you how to fix problem using AMP5 or AMP5 or AMP Authenticate,
Mhm.
but you still you still can gather an understanding of what is lens distortion, why is making those lines curved, why are the images blurred, what happens inside the camera, all this kind of stuff that is just free open source knowledge and is there available for you.
Sure. As you guys said, these are resources that we use internally, honestly, all the time. So I don't see why someone outside of the company shouldn't use it. Even more so, actually, right? So we
Absolutely.
learn from it every single day, basically. And even if you guys decide to reach out to us eventually, I think I can speak for all the three of us. We have never dismissed a single question as being silly or uninformed. We answer everything. Never mind your knowledge level, your experience level. We reply at the best of our abilities every single time. So that's absolutely something it's something we really want to do at the best of our abilities. And I have a final question for you, Amy, before we say goodbye, which has more to do not with your role as a trainer or as a technical support specialist, but it's more about your work as a consultant in the field, in the forensic field. And I will keep it rather general. So, is there an advice, some piece of advice you would like to give to people who want to work or have to work in these contexts, in these operational contexts, so the forensics context, and in the way they should use the tools they are using, because we barely mentioned the tools that we develop, right? We barely mentioned 5 authenticate, replay, etc., because that wasn't really the topic of the conversation. But these tools are forensic tools; they need to be used in a certain manner, etc., etc. So, do you have any advice for people who are using these tools in their daily job?
Okay, so the main advice I would give in regards to using programs like AMP5 or AMP Authentica with doing EU casework is that you as you are the conductor of everything that you do. Okay, so you will need to find a way to make five and authenticate, answer the question that you're seeking from whatever case that you were working on, because um, the products themselves are not kind of like a
Mhm.
coming out like, they're not magic boxes that you're going to press a button and they're going to tell you, oh, this image is fake, this image is real, this license plate is now miraculously we go and see all the characters, but you have all the instruments in there to be able to do that. So, and also the other thing is that one of the benefits for me using AMP products, and I remember using other products in the past, they were all very good, but the issue is that they never were intended to be used for forensic usage, and that in the long term caused issues. And one of the advantages is I can just work an entire case in AMP5 in an AMP Authenticate and get all my investigations in there. So the advice is, whatever case you're working on, think about the questions that is being asked from the video, or what your instructions are, what it is that you're trying to get out of your video forensically, and then build up a strategy in your head, and be assured that AMP5 or AMP Authenticate or whatever program that you're using will have a series of processes or filters that will allow you to implement that workflow. But have a clear plan in mind, and also maybe spend a few hours to think how you're gonna progress your case in one of these programs from start to finish, because there might be circumstances where maybe you're starting something and far along the way you're thinking, I should have thought about doing this earlier, right at the start, and now you're having to modify all these chains or all these things that you got in the program, especially if it's a very complex project. So I say that's my that's what I learned anyway. But I can tell you that if you invest an adequate amount of time using AMP5 and AMP Authenticate, especially, I'm leaving AMP Replay and AMP DVR Conf on the side, not because they are not adequate products, but because they are designed to be used for more investigative needs, if you like. Okay, so give yourself the time to learn it and invest time using it. Don't just use it when once every blue moon when you have to do a license plate announcement. Try and implement it in your everyday forensic video workflow, because then you will ultimately in time you will benefit, like you will take less and it will be forensically safer, and you will get better evidence, and you will do so quicker and safer, and you will producing very valuable work in the long term.
All right, thanks. That was very, very useful advice, also for more experienced users, actually. And guys, I think that's it for today's episode. Thank you, Lucy and Amy, for joining me. It was a really pleasant conversation. I had no doubts about it, of course. I know you very well. So it was really nice having you here. And
thanks for having us, Fritz. And thanks for the conversation. Enjoyed it, and hopefully it will be of use to our users.
I'm sure it will. And guys, if you enjoyed the conversation, make sure you hit subscribe so you will never lose another episode of our podcasts. You can find us on Spotify, podcasts, and also YouTube. As mentioned, I suggest you check the AMP blog, which is kind of an infinite library of knowledge, technical knowledge, and not so technical knowledge for you to improve in our products. From explanation of filters to actual little workflows that guide you through the sensible application of the filter themselves. And if you rather have just key updates, you can also subscribe to our monthly, bi-monthly actually, I think it is, newsletter. So you can have like a summary of the most important things that happened in the company release-wise and such in the last 2 months. Also, you can decide if you want to follow us on LinkedIn and YouTube. Again, new releases, product tips, etc., etc. Also, And lastly, I think if you enjoyed this episode, feel free to leave a review and share it with someone who might enjoy it too, maybe a colleague or a coworker. All right. Thank you again. Thank you, Lucy and Amy, for joining me, and have a good day.
Thank you, Andrea.
Thank you.
Goodbye, everyone.